All right, let's jump right into this explainer and pull back the curtain on the completely unexpected reality that's fueling the Indiana Fever's recent dominance. I mean, when we think of this team, right, our minds instantly go to those record-breaking deep threes and all the flashy offensive plays. But the true foundation of their current success, it isn't just happening under the bright lights of game night. Actually, it's being forged in a much darker, way more grueling environment.
So you really have to ask, what is actually fueling this brutal intensity? Far away from the cameras. We're talking about a level of raw, unfiltered competition brewing in these closed-door sessions that is actively transforming the entire culture of the franchise. And honestly, it's setting a terrifying standard for the rest of the league. Head coach Stephanie White was absolutely stunned to witness this firsthand. As a former player who's won championships herself, she definitely understands the grind. But she noted that seeing her players going head-to-head with male practice squads, bringing a level of chaotic fire that honestly borders on dangerous, completely blew her away. Seeing athletes dive for loose balls until they are literally bleeding, that is the kind of fierce, blue-collar fire that championship coaches dream of.
Section 1. Inside the War Zone.
Listen, this isn't just about running simple sets or doing light walkthroughs. It's about simulating absolute warfare on the basketball court. Caitlin Clark herself revealed that these sessions are incredibly hard and competitive. They are actively forcing the team to sharpen their skills against bigger, stronger, and faster opponents. There's this relentless pursuit of 50-50 balls and defensive rebounds. The coaching staff is putting them in intensely difficult positions so that when they face high-stakes game moments, like their grueling high-intensity matchups against tough opponents like the Golden State Valkyries, they aren't just ready, they're battle-tested. It's a total, complete embrace of an Indiana blue-collar work ethic.
Section 2. The defensive enforcer. To thrive in that exact kind of environment, you can't just have a roster full of pure scorers, right? You need someone willing to do the absolute dirty work, someone who genuinely enjoys the physical toll of a defensive battle. And this visceral detail from Clark highlights how one specific player, Lexi Hull, is the literal source of so much of this physical, bloody intensity. Clark actually admitted it genuinely stresses her out to see Hull constantly hitting the hardwood as a human shield, completely refusing to take a single play off to let a deep leg wound heal. It's a shocking, graphic visual, for sure, but it perfectly captures Hull's relentless dedication.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that Hull, who just recently signed a massive $1.6 million contract extension, is proving her worth not through flash, but through sheer, reckless, physical toughness. Early on, a lot of critics loudly questioned if that contract was a mistake, back when she was battling a hamstring injury. But since returning and stepping into the starting lineup, yeah, she's forced every single one of those critics to eat their words.
This builds such a fascinating counterbalance between Clark's high-profile offense and Hull's invisible, gritty defense. Every true contender needs a player who can defend, bring chaotic energy, and accept literally any assignment without a drop of drama. While Clark is the engine of the offense with her high IQ playmaking, Hull is the defensive anchor. She is entirely focused on deflections, loose balls, and guarding the absolute best player on the opposing team.
Section 3. Willing to bleed.
When you look a little closer at the actual mechanics of Hull's defensive impact, you instantly understand exactly why she's so willing to leave her body on the floor night in and night out. Hull takes on all the invisible dirty work that rarely, if ever, shows up in a standard box score. She's the player picking up opponents full court, harassing them for 40 straight minutes. For example, in a game against the Portland Fire, she perfectly read a screen action, stepped right up, and absorbed a brutal charge from Carla Late just to force a turnover. The entire Fever bench completely erupted. It's plays exactly like that, sacrificing her own body to shift momentum, that completely energized her team.
Now, I really want you to take a look at this massive number. 17.5. The Indiana Fever are a staggering 17.5 points per 100 possessions better overall when Lexi Hull is on the court compared to when she's sitting on the bench. Let that sink in. That is the single biggest difference for any player on the entire Indiana roster.
Because her relentless effort isn't just for show, right? It statistically transforms the team's defensive ceiling. In fact, the Fever completely stopped conceding 100-point games the moment Coach White moved Hull into the starting lineup. Her presence covers a massive amount of defensive gaps, giving the Fever a dependable, rock-solid floor every single night.
Section 4. The perfect teammate. And all of this perfectly sets up why Hull is widely considered the absolute ideal counterpart to Caitlin Clark. It's a true symbiotic relationship that has completely transformed the Fever's starting lineup into an objective powerhouse. By taking on the heavy defensive lifting, Hull allows Clark to focus her energy exactly where it matters most. But Hull also understands exactly how to play off a superstar. She spaces the floor beautifully from the corner, she knows exactly when to perfectly time a backdoor cut when defenses inevitably swarm Clark, and she has a completely selfless mentality. She doesn't care if she scores 0 points, just as long as she's making a winning impact.
But here is the genuinely terrifying part for the rest of the league. Hull isn't just a defensive shield. She is currently shooting a lethal 47.4% from three-point range this season.
She is a lethal dual-threat weapon, period. Against the Portland Fire, she didn't just play well, she was statistically flawless. She went 4 for 4 from beyond the arc and shot 100% from the field. That specific performance went down as the second most efficient 15-plus point game in the entire history of the WNBA. Because she ranks second in the league in offensive net points from the corner, teams are forced into these impossible choices. Do you double Clark and leave Hull wide open, or do you stay home and let Clark cook?
Yet, despite this incredible dual-threat success, Hull remains incredibly humble. She calls herself her own worst critic and constantly desires to improve her defensive discipline, focusing on not lunging, not overhelping, and really reducing fouls. That kind of humility from a veteran player, it's totally infectious in the locker room. It establishes a culture where no one is too big to do the small, hard things.
Section 5. A coach's dream.
Finding a player with this exact mindset is truly rare, which is exactly why the coaching staff views her as such an incredible asset. Coach Stephanie White views Hull as the ultimate set-it-and-forget-it player. When asked by one of Hull's former college coaches if she's ever had a bad day coaching her, White didn't even hesitate. No way. You can trust Hull with the hardest assignments without ever worrying about her effort, her energy, or her attitude. She brings constant activity and a steady presence, without ever demanding the spotlight.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It's this. While Caitlin Clark undeniably gives Indiana its ultimate ceiling with her generational talent, it is Lexi Hull who provides the dependable, tough-as-nails floor every single night. The chemistry between them isn't just about stacking regular season wins. It's about laying the unshakable foundation required for a deep, deep playoff run.
Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. It really leaves us to wonder. As we watch the deep threes, the broken records, and the sold-out arenas, are we completely underestimating the sheer power of the players willing to bleed for the win? Keep your eyes on the invisible work, you guys, because that just might be where the real history is being made.